Scholars, today is editing day. Definitely we'll relook at our writing and see if there are any mistakes that we made and try to make it a little bit better. So the first thing we need to look for that we've talked about is thinking about the word cups. C stands for capital letters. U stands for understanding. How well would someone understand this if they read it? And P stands for punctuation marks. Did I use all my punctuation marks correctly? And S stands for spelling. Okay, I am going to start by naming a couple of different things that we need to have in our writing that may not have to do with these four things. So one of the things I want you to make sure you have when you edit is that you have an indent. Okay. Then up here, you want to make sure that you have a title for your writing. So this piece of writing, I forgot a title, and we're talking about superpowers, right? So I might name it The Power of Flight, because I really think that that is what I would prefer to have. I would want to fly rather than be invisible. So now I'm going to check for each of these four things. So I'm looking for capital letters. I know I have done this one a lot in the past weeks, so I'm actually not going to show you that today, but I'm just going to remind you quickly that you need to capitalize the letter I by itself, capitalize the beginnings of your sentences, and also capitalize names of people, places, and things. So there's only one of these in this piece of writing, so I have to track and see. I have the letter I by itself a lot, but it's all capitalized, so I did a good job with that. I'm going to check for names. So as I'm going through, superpower is not a name, invisible is not a name. That's the beginning of my idea, and that's a capital letter. That's good that I did that. So I'm going to point out right here as the name of a state, a name of a place, Arizona. So I would need to capitalize that. If I'm talking about flying over a jungle, but I don't name the specific jungle in the world, I wouldn't capitalize the word jungle because it's not the name of a specific jungle. Like if I say I'm going to the jungle, you'd be like, which one? If I say I'm going to Arizona, you know exactly where that is. It is the name of a place. It is a proper noun and it needs a capital letter. That's the only one we're going to cover for our capitals today. I expect you as a good writer to go through the entire paragraph that you wrote and make sure you have all of your capitals with all of these three things. Then the next step is understanding. So this is where I would read it out loud, or I would have a friend or family member read it out loud to me. The reason I do that is because sometimes we make silly little mistakes in the middle that make it sound funny when we're reading our writing. So I'm going to read this one out loud. I would prefer to have the superpower of flying rather than being invisible. One reason that I believe flying would be more fun is that I could go anywhere I want. For instance, I could fly to Arizona to visit my family or just fly out of my house to avoid being stuck inside for quarantine. Additionally, I can be a more useful hero if I fly. In fact, I could easily fly by and grab someone's stolen purse from a criminal. So I checked for understanding and it all made sense. I purposely didn't make those mistakes this time because I think that that's something I have shown in the past. I want to really focus on punctuation. Some of the punctuation in the writing that I've seen isn't including commas or apostrophes that we need, and we're missing some of our ending punctuation. So I'm missing a lot of ending punctuation. Here's how I can tell right away. When I look at my writing, I don't see a lot of periods. I see a comma there, no periods all the way up until here. I know that this is way too much writing that I've already done for me to not have a single period. That's craziness. So at the end of each of my ideas, when I feel like pausing or stopping a little bit when I'm reading it out loud, that's where my ending punctuation needs to go. So let's hear an example. This says, I would prefer to have the superpower of flying rather than being invisible. One reason. Ooh, that's not all one sentence. I'm supposed to say, I would prefer to have the superpower of flying rather than being invisible. That's my first idea, so it gets my first ending punctuation. One reason that I believe flying would be more fun is that I could go anywhere I want. That was my first reason. And that's the end of an idea. Now I'm giving you an example. For instance, I could fly to Arizona to visit my family or just fly out of my house to avoid being stuck inside for quarantine. Oh, I do have a period there. That's good because I felt like pausing and stopping there because that was the end of my example. Additionally, I can be a more useful hero if I fly. In fact, it's not if I fly. In fact, it's I can be a more useful hero if I fly. In fact, you see how I paused there? Because that's how I want it to sound. I need to make sure I have my ending punctuation marks at the end of each idea. In fact, I could easily fly by and grab someone's stolen purse from a criminal. That's the end of my next example. I'm choosing periods because I'm not asking about anything. I'm telling people how I feel right now. Okay, so I checked for my ending punctuation. Now it's time for me to think about where I could use commas. This comma right here is used after a transition word. So after I say, for example, for instance, additionally, any of my transition words, I usually pause. So I'm going to look for those transition words. For instance, I could fly to Arizona. Okay, that one looks good. Look for my next transition word, additionally. I feel like pausing after that, so that's where I need my comma, after my time or transition word. I can be a more useful hero if I fly. In fact, I could easily fly by. So see, I wanted to pause there when I'm speaking, so that means I need to show people who are reading this, you should pause there. It sounds better if you pause there when you read it. So I checked for my commas. I'm going to teach you a place where you need to check for apostrophes now. Okay, so I'm looking through. So whenever someone owns something, we need to make sure we put an apostrophe to show that ownership. So it's like, hey, that is Mrs. Charrington's pen. It belongs to her. Mrs. Charrington's doesn't just get an S on the end, it gets an apostrophe S. Hey, that's Miss R's cup. Well, Miss R's, you can hear the S on the end, but you need an apostrophe S to show it belongs to her. So in this last sentence, it says, in fact, I could easily fly by and grab someone's stolen purse. Well, whoever that person is, the stolen purse belongs to them. So if it's theirs, we don't just say someone's, because that means more than one person. We don't want that. We want it to mean that person owns this purse. So we need the apostrophe here to show ownership. The object after that person belongs to them. Okay, that's your apostrophe. It looks like a comma, but it's up in the air. Okay, so those are the punctuation mistakes I know I've made. If you're a good editor, you'd go through, follow every sentence to make sure you don't have any places where you need those commas or periods or apostrophes. Last but not least, we're going to talk about spelling in a little bit of a different way today. So I noticed some people were trying to make compound words. Compound words are a little bit tough because that means two words are inside of one word. Okay, so we're going to focus on spelling compound words correctly, and it can be really tricky. So like for example here it says superpower, but superpower is one word together. So I usually draw this to just show that we need to push those two words together. There should be no space. Okay, even though it sounds like two words, it's actually just one compound word. One reason that I believe flying would be more fun is that I could go anywhere I want. For instance, I could fly to Arizona to visit my family, or just fly out of my house to avoid being stuck inside for quarantine. Additionally, I can be a more useful hero if I fly. In fact, I could easily fly by and grab someone's stolen purse from a criminal. Okay. Oh, I saw another one. And sometimes when you're reading it, you read right over your mistakes. So I actually read right over this one. The word anywhere is one word. I could go anywhere. It's not two separate words. We need to join them and leave no space in the middle. Okay? So I've checked for spelling of compound words and I caught two mistakes. If you're not sure about compound words, sometimes you even have to ask someone, is that one word or two words? because it sounds like two, but it's only one sometimes. Okay, so another thing is in some of our writing, we've been making some mistakes with words that are either in the teacher example, so you could go back and look and use my example as a resource, or with some sight words like would and could. So we need to be really careful. They break the rules. They sound like this, but we need to do W-O-U-L-D and C-O-U-L-D. I had it in another spot too, right here. W-O-U-L-D. So with our sight words, we should not be making those spelling mistakes because those are words that we see all the time. So we need to look somewhere to think about how we would spell that. Those words are in everything, okay? In so many books that you've read. Then there were just a couple more things. I'm going to do a check for spelling, one last final check. Do any words look funny? I would prefer to have the superpower of flying rather than being invisible. One reason that I believe that one looks pretty funny to me. Sometimes we need to go to dictionary.com or ask a friend or family member to help us with the spelling. This sounds right. It sounds like believe, but it's spelled be Eve. Okay, so sometimes words can be tricky because you can sound them out, and this is perfectly sounded out, but it's spelled with a different E sound. Okay, so just be careful. And then some words break the rules, and they're usually our sight words. So be more fun. That looks funny because more needs an E on the end. Is that I could go anywhere I want. For instance, I could fly to Arizona to visit my family or just fly out of my house to avoid being stuck inside for quarantine. Additionally, I can be a more useful hero if I fly. In fact, I could easily fly by and grab someone's stolen purse from a criminal. Wow. None of the rest of the words look funny to me, so I think I'm ready to say that I am done editing my paper. Can't wait to see the edits you make this week. You've been impressing me every day. Keep it up.